CBS presents this program in color.
From the sun and fun capital of the world, Miami Beach, we bring you the Jackie Gleason Show.
Starring Jackie Gleason and his guest stars, DeLuise, George Gobel, and Sheila MacRae.
The June Taylor Dancers and Sammy Spear and his orchestra. And away we go!
It's gonna be another of those nights. Oops. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, our orchestra leader, Sammy Spear. Take a bow. You know, anyone who doesn't like Miami Beach has got to be nuts. That's for openers. Now, it's especially great for me. Now, I got down here 4 years ago, and my hobby is collecting seashells. It is. I love to get up in the morning, 5:30, when the sun is just... They just don't know the real Gleason, you know. But I like to get up at that time of morning and stagger and walk around the beach and collect these little shells, you know. And they have some beautiful shells here. You get one of those, those cerise clam shells that you find near the water's edge. Polish them up. They're beautiful. And then you can get the blue-black mussel shells. Shine those up. They become very thin. You look through them, and everybody seems to be walking upside down. Then they seem to be wavy. Then you take it away from your eye, and everybody is walking upside down, and they are wavy. And then there's those big shells. If you're walking on the beach in the evening, you pick one of those big shells up and hold it to your ear just the right way. You can hear the band playing at the Fontainebleau. Well, when I first got down here 4 years ago, I found a conch shell, the most beautiful conch shell I have ever seen in my life. Well, naturally, I was thrilled with it. I took it home, and I cleaned it out, and I washed it out with Brillo and everything, had it spotless. And then I shined it in there with velvet, and on the outside, I kept polishing it. Then I borrowed a scalpel from a surgeon friend of mine and started to draw little pictures inside the conch shell. As a matter of fact, I drew the whole story of Hansel and Gretel. And on the other side, I had the 14th inning of the World Series in 1912. I had that all, you know. I had a picture of Ray Bloch in his World War I uniform. I had that in there. That's for the band, I had that. And when I finished with all the carving, and it was difficult work, I had to wear one of those jeweler loops, you know, and it was very difficult. I walked around like that for weeks after. But I worked on it for 4 years. I put sequins around the outside of it, red, white, and blue sequins. Just a beautiful thing. And last week, I got the thrill of my life. The director of the Miami Beach Museum came to me. He said he had heard about this conch shell that I had worked on, and he would like to put it on display at the Miami Beach Museum. Well, naturally, I was thrilled. And he said, we'll give it a prominent position where everybody can see it, and I know you'll be very happy with it. Well, I went over there this morning, and I must say that it was in a good spot. It was right between Eleanor Holmes' bathing suit and a picture of Flipper shaking hands with the King of Sweden. Right in the middle, beautiful. But I didn't like the sign they had over it. Drop your butts in here. and gentlemen, we have a show tonight that I know you're going to enjoy. We have Dom DeLuise, one of the finest comedians, I think, that's come around in a long, long time. We have Lonesome George Gobel, who you all know is a sensational comedian. You're right. But first, I would like to introduce to you a young lady that I spend a great deal of time in the kitchen with. She's come out of the kitchen tonight to be herself. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Miss Sheila MacRae.
Do you know just who you are? Hey, Sheila, you've imitated every star. Sheila, hey girl, say girl, strictly entre nous. Are you really sure you know the real you? See, that's what your problem is, Sheila. Everyone says to you, who are you? You always say, well, darling, when I am Jaja Gabor, I'm very rich and very beautiful. But everybody knows that you're not very rich and very beautiful. And when you're down the shore, you're happy all day, every day. And there ain't nobody happy all day, every day. You know what your problem is? You don't know who the heck you really are. There's the kind of talk that I talk when I play Katharine Hepburn. There's the kooky walk I walk when I'm Lucille Ball. Ah! There's a sexy stance I get when I sing like Lena Horne. And for Peggy Lee, I use the softest voice of all. There's an attitude that I must take if I'm going to play Betty Davis. But Peter, that's all I ever say. I play Liz Taylor, rather classy. Then I smile and hey, I'm Doris Day. But when it comes to Twiggy, who I got to stand this way. But when I'm Liza Doolittle in My Fair Lady, I am warm and fun and ever so loverly. All I want is a home somewhere far away from home like there, with one enormous chair. Ooh, wouldn't it be lovely? There'd be lots of chocolates for me to eat, lots of coal making lots of heat, warm hands, warm face, warm feet. Ooh, wouldn't it be loverly? Loverly, loverly.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce a gentleman by the name of Lonesome George Gobel. However, when you hear his type of humor, you'll realize that his humor is anything but lonesome. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the cutest guys in the world, George Gobel. There he is. You know, George, we have been, incidentally, it's a pleasure to see you.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, we have been in show business for a long time. Both of us have had our own shows, and I have called you up many times to appear on my show, and for some reason or other, you had an excuse that you couldn't appear, and it began to make me feel as if you didn't want to come on my show.
Oh, well, that's not so, Jackie. Believe, mercy, no. No, it's not that at all. It's just that every time you called, I was so busy, you know, or something was happening. Like the first time you called, I remember I was having my typewriter repaired. The O was upside down. Oh. And, well, that's kind of serious. And then then you called me again, and I was going through a kind of an emotional thing. I had just lost my bowling ball.
Wait a minute. You had lost your bowling ball?
Well, that doesn't sound like such a big deal, but I mean, like if you were attached to it, it would interfere with your work, you know. But I'll tell you the way it happened and why I got upset about it. You know, I was on my way back home from Texas, which wasn't the worst idea I ever had in my life either, you know. And I was on the train, and I had my bowling ball right at my feet all the way, and I got off the train, and I didn't have it.
Didn't have your bowling ball?
I forgot to pick it up is what happened, but I still didn't have it. So now I get real panicky, you know, and I rush into the depot, up to the lost and found department. I elbow my way past 14 people. I get right up in front where the fellas tending store. Yeah. And I grabbed him by the lapels, and I said, "Say, partner, I just got back from Texas."
Yes.
So I said, "Say, partner," I said, "did you find a bowling ball?" He said, "Did you lose one?" So I said, "No, that's the way I always start conversations with people I don't know." Some people say, "Hadn't it been miserable weather lately?" A lot of them say, "Haven't I seen you someplace?" I always say, "Did you find a book?" And he didn't like the way I said that at all. No, I could tell. There was a little hostility there. He said, "Now, first of all, sir," he said, "there are certain procedures and curriculums that we carry through here in the location of a lost article." He said, "First of all, what is your name?" And I said, "My name is Gobel, George Gobel." He said, "Do you spell that with a G, Mr. Gobel?" I said, "Yes, I do spell it with a G." I said, "I used to spell it with an F, but people kept calling me Phobel." Oh. See, Forgy Phobel is what they call it.
Georgie Phobel.
Forgy.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said, "Now, sir," he said, "let's not let blind rage and unreasoning passion triumph over cool, calm judgment."
He did?
He did. Well, I didn't come up here to tell you a lot of big lies. If I say that's what he said, that's what he said. You know?
Oh, I take your word.
And when he said something like that, I didn't even answer him, you know.
Well, I don't want to get into an argument.
Well, I didn't know what he was talking about, if you want to get right down to it. But he said, "First of all, Mr. Gobel," he said, "we have," and he went through this procedures and curriculums thing. He said, "Now, did you lose a bowling ball?" I said, "No." I said, "I happen to be a grape crusher in a winery, and I came in here to see if you could recommend a good place to get my feet bleached."
Feet bleached.
Yeah, we laughed about that for a while, of course, you know, except him, of course. You know, he's like the bear at the fair, you know. He said, "Now, sir," he said, "as I say, there's procedures and curriculums. Now, first of all, we're going to have a description of the lost article." And I said, "Well, it was a bowling ball." And he said, "Well, will you describe it for me?" I said, "Well, now, I said, let me tell you about that." I said, "It's a..."
Tell me about it, too, George. I'd like to hear it.
Well, actually, what it was a run-of-the-mill type of bowling ball, you know. It was round, and it had 3 holes in it. And
A three-holer?
Yeah, and he said, he didn't say that at all.
No, I said that.
And you didn't tell me you were going to say it either, you know.
So,
All right, that was fair. I know.
I gotta have something to say while I'm at it. Even if it's only 3-holer. Oh, yeah, pardon.
I said to him, it had 3 holes in it, and he said, "I knew I should have never let you come out here for this. Because I've done this routine before. I can handle the case all by myself." Anyway, he says to me, he says,
That 3-holer knocked you out, huh, George?
"Well, we got out of the tub, I'll tell you.
Yes.
You know, I forget where I am now." He said, I said, "It had 3 holes in it," and he said, "On which side were the holes, Mr. Gobel?" I said, "Well," I said, "I believe that they were on the outside," but I said, "I couldn't say."
You devil, you.
But I said, "That's usually the case with round bowling balls." I said, "Now, square bowling balls, there, you got a
Square?
hole." Well, that's what he said, too, you know. He said, "I'll tell you what," Excuse me. He said, I'll tell you what I want you to do, Mr. Gobel. Continue with the description. He said, what color was this bowling ball? I said, well, it was a sort of a burnt orange. He said, isn't that a rather peculiar color for a bowling ball, Mr. Gobel? I said, well, not when you stop to figure that my bowling shoes are sort of a smoked salmon with caramel beige laces. Well, he seemed to take a little more interest after that.
I imagine he would. I can see his eyebrows aghast.
So he said, I'll tell you what I want you to do.
Wait a minute. Before you go any further with the bowling ball, I understand that you sing.
Oh, like, you're kidding. Already?
No kidding. Didn't it seem like we were just out here for 20 minutes?
I haven't got started yet. Don't kid the Scout's honor. I didn't get near the end, but I didn't have a finish for this thing anyway.
But George, I understand you sing.
We can do this in 2 parts if you'd invite me back. You know.
Well, that might be a very, very good idea to invite George. But since we're trying to get an hour and 20-minute show into an hour, you know, I'd like to hear you sing.
Well, I love to sing, and if I could get Sammy and the boys to play this song for me...
Yeah, that'll be
nice.
miraculous. Go ahead.
Well, I just don't get a chance to sing ballads too often, and Jackie told me it was all right for me to sing one tonight because we had to have a finish for this thing anyway, and it's called Here Are My Arms, and I hope you will enjoy it. Sammy? Here are my arms, take them please do, just say the word and I'll also give you my elbow. I used to dream all my life through. I dreamed someday I'd give someone like you my elbow. I'll give you all that's within me if you tell me you care. I'll have my kidney stones mounted for your fingers to wear. Please take my heart sincere. It's yours forever to go with my arms and elbows.
Stay tuned for more of The Jackie Gleason Show.
A few years ago, on television, I think it was about 2 years ago, I was watching, and I saw a comedian who I considered to be a very unusual one. And I thought that because he had a very unusual style. He was the kind of a guy that could do sketches, scenes. And in television, anyone will tell you, someone who can get in back of The Traveler, where you usually do monologues and do scenes, has got to make it in television. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the finest comedians I've seen in I don't know when, Mr. Dom DeLuise.
Hey, Charlie, Charlie, isn't this exciting? Can you imagine this? Me, the MC at a testimonial dinner for Jackie Gleason at the Friars Club. Are you ready for that? I mean, Jackie Gleason is my favorite, right? He's my idol for years. Every Saturday night, when that boat comes up to the shore, I'm there. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't even eat during that time. I don't have to. Listen, can you imagine? I'm actually going to meet the great one. I mean, listen to me now. He's going to be sitting right over there. Don't think I'm going to be nervous. And just because 3,000 of the most important people in show business are going to be out there, no, it's not going to affect you. You've heard me tell some jokes at parties, right? You know the one about the guy with the binoculars underneath the thing? You didn't tell your wife that, did you? No. Now, this could be my golden opportunity. You understand? If Gleason likes my jokes, he may even hire me. Make me a June Taylor dancer or something. I look very good from the ceiling. Ping, ping. You know, that Gleason is really good. But what does he do? He just, well, listen. This is it, you know. One of these days, Alice, one of these days, Paul, and away we go. And the people in Florida go crazy. I don't understand. I never spoke at one of these friar roasts before, but I think I'm going to be great. I mean, you know me, how modest I am. Were you supposed to insult the guest of honor? My cousin Nick, he helped me write this, and he is beautiful. I got a lot of insults, you know, right here. Let me read it to you, all right? It starts out, I get the gavel, and I go, attention, Paul. Everybody looks at me. Now, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, brother members of the Friars, and guest of honor. I have always admired Mr. Gleason, and tonight, as you know, we are here to give Jackie a 21-gun salute. And if we're lucky, some of the bullets will hit him. Now, you see, our guest of honor was going to be a lawyer, but he decided to give it up. He didn't think he could pass the bar. Now, Jackie Gleason has been in show business for a long time. He started out in a high school play. He played the part of the high school. Control yourself, Charlie. Listen, I'm not saying that he's a big man, but he has got a sign on his stomach that says no handball playing allowed. Oh, how could I be this funny? You know, if Bob Hope knew I had these jokes, he would kidnap me. That's right. Well, now, and then I go on. I say, if I may, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our guest of honor. When he was born, it was a very moving experience for everyone in the neighborhood. They all took one look at him, and they started moving. He was destined to be in show business. When he was born, the doctor slapped him, and instead of crying, he said, "How sweet it is." Oh, that's delicious. You know, Jackie came from a very poor family. In fact, they were so poor that his sister didn't have a sweet 16 party till she was 22. When Jackie went to school, all the other kids in the class used to call him the teacher's pet. That's because the teacher used to keep him in a cage. His talents are far and wide, though. He was very big in Hollywood. In fact, he's the reason they invented CinemaScope, to get them all in. You know, this is... Well, sometimes I even laugh at my own jokes. All right. He's a very big man. Did you know that when he moved to Florida, they had to let out the borderlines? That's right. Jackie's such a great trooper. He hasn't made a movie in a little while now, and still, every day, he shaves his legs. That'll grab them. You know, and Jackie Gleason was brilliant as Minnesota Fats. And he was, you know, brilliant in that movie, Charlie. Incidentally, that's true, you know, you think about that. I mean, and he did all his own pool stuff. Incidentally, he got his own formal education in a pool room, and he graduated magna cum laude. Yesterday, he was playing golf, and he hit a 79. He got a nice old man right in the head. It makes you think. Now, you know, a lot of people say that he drinks a little, but that is a lie. I have seen him, and he doesn't drink a little. He drinks a lot. What's happening? What? Oh, we're gonna start now. We're gonna start. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Our guest of honor, Miami's own, Jackie Gleason. Hello, Mr. Gleason. I tell you, he really looks just like himself in his head. It's right in the middle. Look, he touched my hand. You know what I mean? I should start now? I'll do the thing. Attention! Good evening, ladies and Gentiles. Ladies and gentlemen, mother members of the Briars, brother members of the Friars, and guests of honor, I have always admired Mr. Gleason, and tonight we are here to give Jackie a 21-son galoot. And if we're lucky, some of the hoolets will bid him. You know, Jackie Gleason has been in voluptuousness, show business, for a long time. He started out in a high school play. He played the part of the ski hool. School high, a high school. Now he plays characters like Cramden, and this is true. You know, originally, Jackie was supposed to play the cart that Art Pawnee had. The Art Pawnee cart of a man who circs in a wooer, who works in a sewer. But they couldn't fit him through the manhole. Please make my mouth work again. You know, I'm not saying that he's a big man. Hello, Mr. Gleason. Can I have your autograph? You know, but anytime you want, you can laugh. You're the only man I know who has a sign in his stomach, no handball playing allowed. Excuse me, I'm going to have a winker daughter. I'm going to have a dink. I'm all right now. If I may, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our guest of honor. I'm sorry, Mr. Gleason. It's damp here. But you know, I do. You thought I was going to touch it again. A moving experience for everyone in the neighborhood. But, you know, he started slapping everybody around, and then the doctor said how sweet it is. When he went to school, the other kids used to call him teacher's pet. That's because he had a Sweet 16 party in a cage with Moby Dick. He hasn't made a movie in a little noodle-leedle. And still he shaves. Blackie Jason was brilliant as Finnemotor Sax. And yesterday he was playing golf and he hit 79 people right in the head. In conclusion, I would like to say that I think you're a nice man. I don't care what my cousin Nick said. I want to go home.
This is Johnny Olson speaking for the Jackie Gleason Show. Gowns by Cameo Evening Fashions, jewelry by Wesson of Hollywood, Florida. Tonight's program was pre-recorded.